Breaking, Prince William just broke 70 years of royal silence with 5 words that could end Keir Starmer's career by Monday. What he said at the Royal Variety performance wasn't just a speech, it was a declaration of war. And the fallout has already begun. Markets are crashing, cabinet ministers are plotting, and the Prime Minister looks finished. This is the constitutional crisis nobody saw coming. If you want to understand what happens when the future King of England decides he's done playing nice, hit subscribe right now. Because what I'm about to show you will be studied in history books for decades. Here's what actually happened. Last Tuesday, at a private EU dinner in Brussels, Starmer made comments about the monarchy that were never meant to go public. He called it an outdated institution, draining resources from working families. He suggested Britain needed to modernise beyond medieval symbolism. Someone at that dinner recorded everything. By Wednesday morning, the audio was on Prince William's desk at Kensington Palace. William didn't release a statement. He didn't call a press conference. He did something far more devastating. At last night's Royal Variety performance, with 2,000 guests watching and cameras broadcasting live across Britain, he abandoned his prepared remarks and delivered this. There are those who believe tradition is weakness. They're wrong. Tradition is the backbone of this nation, and anyone who attacks it attacks every single person in this room. The applause lasted 47 seconds. Security had to pause the programme, but William wasn't done. The British people know who serves them and who serves themselves. History will judge accordingly. The camera cut to Labour MPs in attendance. They looked like they'd seen a ghost. Within minutes, their phones were exploding with messages from party headquarters. Emergency meetings were being called because everyone understood this wasn't royal protocol, this was personal. But here's what makes this devastating. While Starmer attacks the monarchy from taxpayer-funded dinners in Brussels, British veterans are choosing between heating and eating. James Morrison, 73, Royal Marine veteran from Portsmouth, 26 years of service defending this country. Now, he can't afford to keep his lights on and buy groceries in the same week. I fought for this country for 26 years, Morrison told reporters yesterday, his voice breaking. Now I can't even keep my home warm. I sit in the dark some nights because I have to choose. While Morrison sits in a cold flat rationing his heating, Starmer's office spent £43,000 on a field state dinner last month. £43,000 for one evening. Champagne at £600 per bottle. Wagyu beef flown in from Japan. Gold leaf desserts that cost more than most families spend on food in 3 months. The guest list? Foreign diplomats and wealthy donors, not a single veteran, not a single NHS worker, not a single person who represents the Britain that's actually struggling. The contrast is obscene. Sarah Chen, an NHS nurse from Leeds working 60-hour weeks, posted a video that's been viewed 4 million times. I can't afford to fix my car, she said through tears. I'm taking 3 buses to work because I can't afford the repairs. And this man is spending my tax money on gold desserts for millionaires. That video was shared by over 300,000 people in the first 24 hours. The anger isn't just about money, it's about values. It's about who this government actually serves. And Prince William just called it out in front of the entire nation. Then something unprecedented happened. King Charles, who hasn't commented on politics since his coronation, broke his silence at yesterday's Privy Council meeting at Buckingham Palace. The crown serves the people, not political ambition, he said with barely controlled fury. And when politicians forget that basic truth, it is our duty to remind them. He didn't mention Starmer by name. He didn't need to. Everyone in that room understood exactly who he meant. Palace insiders confirmed that Charles personally approved William's statement hours before it was delivered. This wasn't a rogue prince acting alone. This was a coordinated royal response authorised at the highest level. The optics are catastrophic for Starmer when both the current king and the future king signal that a prime minister has crossed a line. That Prime Minister's position becomes untenable. Constitutional experts are calling it the most significant royal intervention in politics since the abdication crisis of 1936. Professor Michael Reynolds, senior constitutional lawyer, told the BBC this morning, "If the King is making his position this clear, we're in unprecedented territory. The monarchy doesn't do this unless the situation is genuinely critical." But there's another layer that makes this even more explosive. Sources close to the palace reveal that King Charles held a private meeting with the Archbishop of Canterbury 2 days before William's speech. What was discussed remains officially confidential, but one phrase has leaked from multiple independent sources: constitutional obligations in times of crisis. Think about what that means. The Archbishop of Canterbury only gets involved when matters of state reach the highest possible stakes. This wasn't about protocol or tradition. This was about the fundamental relationship between Crown and government. The markets understood immediately. Within 4 hours of William's speech, the pound dropped 1.3% against the dollar. Financial markets don't panic over nothing. Traders understood that Britain had entered uncharted constitutional territory. By market close yesterday, £17 billion had been wiped from the FTSE 100. Political betting markets showed Starmer's odds of surviving until the next election, plummeting from 68% to 31% in less than 4 hours. Social media absolutely exploded. The hashtag Defend the Royals trended globally for 11 straight hours, with over 4 million posts supporting William's stance. Even younger voters who typically lean progressive were siding with the palace. Labour's internal polling leaked to The Telegraph this morning shows catastrophic numbers, a 14-point swing away from the party in just 72 hours. In traditional Labour strongholds like Durham, Newcastle and Sheffield, support has collapsed. Last night, protests erupted across Britain. In Manchester, over 8,000 people gathered outside the town hall demanding Starmer's resignation. Similar scenes played out in Birmingham, Liverpool and Leeds. These aren't Conservative voters. This is Labour's own base turning against them. In Glasgow, 71-year-old Margaret O'Brien carried a sign reading, "I voted Labour all my life. Never again. My grandfather fought in World War II for this country," she told reporters, her voice steady but fierce. "My father served in the Royal Navy. And now this government disrespects everything they stood for. I'm done." Her video has been shared over 1 million times. She's become the face of Labour's collapse among its core working class base. Meanwhile, in Bristol, a city that usually leans heavily progressive, university students were chanting "God save the King" outside the city council building. When you've lost young progressives in Bristol, you've lost the future of your party. Inside number 10 Downing Street, the atmosphere is somewhere between a funeral and a crime scene. Ministers are conducting shouting matches in corridors designed for dignified governance. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner allegedly threw a folder at a senior advisor during a strategy meeting yesterday afternoon, screaming, "This is your mess, you fix it!" Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson was overheard telling a colleague, "We're finished. The whole government is finished." Multiple WhatsApp groups with names like Post-Starmer Planning and New Leadership Coalition are plotting the Prime Minister's removal with military precision. The question isn't if they'll move against him, it's when. Starmer himself is reportedly looking completely shattered. Sources describe him as barely sleeping, chain drinking coffee, and refusing to accept the scale of the disaster he's created. One cabinet minister told The Times this morning he's in complete denial. He genuinely believes he can survive this. He can't. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has gone completely silent. No interviews, no statements, no public appearances. Her team is preparing briefing documents for a leadership transition. Everyone at Westminster understands what that means. And David Lammy, normally Starmer's most loyal defender, gave an interview yesterday where he conspicuously avoided defending the Prime Minister's comments about the monarchy. Political operatives call that building distance before the collapse. But here's where this gets truly explosive. Leaked internal documents suggest that Starmer's team knew the Brussels dinner was being recorded. They knew his comments would leak. And they went ahead anyway. If these documents are authentic, and multiple senior Labour sources confirm they are, Then the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom deliberately provoked a constitutional crisis for political gain. According to sources who've seen the document, Starmer's chief strategist, Morgan McSweeney, drafted a memo 3 weeks ago titled Modernisation Through Conflict. The memo explicitly outlined a strategy to create controlled controversy around traditional institutions to energise progressive base voters. The monarchy was listed as target number one. If that memo becomes public, and sources say it will within days, Starmer doesn't just lose his job, he loses his reputation forever. Because British voters might forgive incompetence. They might even forgive arrogance, but they will never forgive deliberate manipulation of the constitutional order for political advantage. Meanwhile, the Conservative Party is seizing this moment like predators spotting wounded prey. Opposition leader Kemi Badenoch delivered a pitch-perfect response yesterday. Prince William reminded us all that some things matter more than politics. Duty, service, tradition. The Prime Minister would do well to remember those values. No dramatics, no theatrical outrage, just steady, authoritative leadership. While Starmer looks panicked, Badenoch appears prime ministerial. The polls tell the story with brutal clarity. Conservatives have surged to 38%, their highest number in 2 years. Labour has collapsed to 24%, their lowest since the Corbyn era. For the first time since the last election, the Tories hold a commanding 14-point lead. Parliament returns Monday morning. Starmer faces Prime Minister's questions at noon. Every political observer in Britain expects it to be the most brutal PMQs in modern history. Badenoch will strike with surgical precision. Labour backbenchers will sit in silence, refusing to defend him. Beyond that, 3 cabinet ministers are preparing resignation letters to be delivered simultaneously. If they go public together, Starmer's government collapses immediately. A vote of no confidence is being drafted as we speak. So here's where we are. The future king publicly rebuked the Prime Minister. The current king broke decades of political neutrality to support him. The Archbishop was consulted on constitutional obligations. Markets panicked, Labour imploded, and the entire country is watching a government fall apart in real time. Starmer has 72 hours before Parliament returns. The monarchy has endured for 1,000 years. Place your bets. What do you think happens next? Does Starmer resign before Monday, or does Labour force him out? Drop your prediction in the comments below. We're reading every single one, and your voice matters right now. And if this analysis gave you clarity on what's really happening behind the palace walls, share it with someone who needs to see the truth. Because tomorrow we're breaking down the leaked modernisation through conflict memo that proves this crisis was planned from the beginning. The evidence will change everything you think you know about this government.